Part 5. So, as it turns out, being completely rejected by your entire family does not set you up to find healthy relationships with other people. And so, I did end up being in several different abusive relationships, romantic relationships. Um, and then I became a single parent. Somehow I was able to be a single parent and finish college at the same time. I would say it was just a rough few years. And during that time, of course, I was still being shunned by my entire family. So I went through several years, basically on my own. Um, And you would think too that if your child is going through a difficult time period and they really need you, that you would want to be there at least for your grandchild, but no. Um, I'm trying to think if they really helped me very much at all. I remember one time asking my mom because I had a class that was it on a Saturday or something? And I don't think it was even very long because it was one of those like classes where you go and the class is like 5 hours or something for several Saturdays. But it wasn't like a several times a week 3 credit hour class. I don't remember. Anyway, I asked her and no, she wasn't going to do it. So I had to figure something else out. I think she helped me one time when my car broke down. She drove me somewhere when my car broke down. But that's pretty much it. And I remember one year when I had the flu, and I had the flu, and my son was like 4, I think. And they wouldn't watch my son for me. I mean, I literally could not hardly stay awake because my fever was so high. No, I just had to figure it out. I mean, and that's how they feel about you. If you leave the religion, they will make you pay in any type of way. They'll make you pay. They'll make your kids pay. They really don't care. They really don't care. So that's the loving religion. So I figured it out. We survived. I mean, I was fortunate that when I like conked out, that my son, was just watching TV. So those were difficult years. Those were very difficult years. So yeah, I ended up somehow getting my bachelor's degree during that. And it was of no help from my family. I'll tell you that. So like I said, I haven't talked to my parents for 8 years, like actually seen them in person in 8 years. And my other brother, I haven't talked to him in the one that went to Bethel for 15 years. No, my mom would contact me. She contacted me a couple times to let me know when someone was in the hospital. I think like when my dad was in the hospital, my dad had like a heart episode, and it's really sad because me and my dad were close, much closer than my mom. I feel like. And my question was always, and then she contacted me, like when my other grandmother passed, and then my aunt passed, and one of them passed, I think, during COVID. So it was going to be like a weird virtual memorial service. And I've already decided that I'm not going to be going to any witness funeral of any family member. I'm not going to be. Because why would I go to something when nobody is going to talk to me? Number one. And number two, because the whole point of a funeral or a memorial is that you are comforting to other people. So why would I do that? Nobody's going to talk to me. And then the other reason is that they don't actually talk about the person that's died. They may say like, well, this person, did this, and this. They'll talk about them for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then the rest of the 30 or 40 minutes or however long they decide to talk is about Jehovah's Witness doctrine and teaching. And this is what so-and-so believed. So I've already decided when people in my family die, I'm not going to any of the funerals. Yeah, but when she would message me and let me know, be like, what am I supposed to do with this information? Why are you only contacting me when something bad happens? Does this mean that we're going to start talking? Does this mean that, you're going to be a part of my life? And of course the answer is no, because it's more, I want you to feel miserable stuff, basically. I want to remind you that people are dying, that you're missing out on years of being with them, because it's my little way of getting some jabs in there. Yeah, that's what being a Jehovah's Witness does to people. Now, having said that, a few things that people have been protesting and debating and stuff is the shunning, and it being inhumane, and I agree it is. But I think that if you're going to change anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, now, like after saying all this stuff that I've said, if you've watched any of the other videos that are incredibly long, after saying all this and telling my life story and everything, do I think Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult? Yes, I do. I do think they're culty. Now, on the danger level of being a cult, they're pretty low. I mean, people that Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't ever see them deciding to do a Jonestown thing where they all murder themselves or they're waiting for a spaceship or anything. I don't see that. In some ways, it's maybe more insidious because they have this level of like order and calmness and structure. And it's very comforting to people, I think, when things are orderly. And so if they have things put together and structured, then they're trusted more. And they sit down and they study and they raise their hand and they answer questions, and it's kind of like a classroom type thing. So it kind of throws people off. They think, well, we're studying, we're thinking about this, and we're reasoning, so it can't be a cult. But having said that, there are countries where Jehovah's Witnesses are banned or they're not allowed, and I don't think that should be the case. I think people should be able to believe what they want to believe, because you can't try to police dick behavior, because I think that there probably are some witnesses. There always used to be some witnesses where they would have a family member that was disfellowshipped, that they still talk to them. Should they have done that? Would they get in trouble if it was found out? Yeah. But it comes down to, like, on a personal level, what someone's going to do and what they're not going to do. Because, like, my mom, for instance, went out of her way to be a dick to me, and she didn't really need to do that. I think that she was worse on her own than what the religion probably would have had her done. Like, what reason would there be for her to contact me to tell me someone's in the hospital? If she's not going to have anything to do with me, like, what's the point? What's the point of that? I mean, I don't think that, I would classify that as being cruel, and I don't is it cruel to disfellowship people and shun people? Yes, it is. But to that extent, no, I don't. It's up to people how they choose to behave. You can blame the organization all you want, but it's really up to individual people and how they behave. And I think that people want to say, because I think most religions are organized religions. I would not have anything to do with any organized religions, and I think they're bullshit. But people have a right to believe what they want to believe, and you can say that anything, you can compare anything to religion if it's something that you put faith in, and you honor it, and you respect it, and you work for it all of the time. I mean, how is that any different? A government, how is that any different from a religion in some cases? Anything can be a religion. Anything can be your God. And I think that, believe in an unknown or a supernatural is an integral part of being human, and you can't take that out of people. You can't take that away from people, and they have a right. I really feel strongly that people have a right to believe whatever they want to believe, however weird or crazy you think it is. Now, with Jehovah's Witnesses, I think that a few changes, things that should happen, legal changes should be when it comes to minors. Because when you get baptized, I completely skipped over the baptism thing. Because I got baptized at 13. I think that baptism for minors should not be allowed. Now, I don't know how you would enforce that, but basically when you get baptized, you are committing your entire life to the rules of that organization. And when you do that and you don't know anything about life, it's like any type of legal contract. We don't let people get married when they're 13. We don't let people drive. We don't let people drink. We don't let people buy guns for good reason, because they're not old enough to know what they're doing. And so a lifetime commitment to something should not be allowed, or it's going to impact you in that way. So if there was some way that it could be legislated that was not allowed, I think that should be the case. And the blood transfusion thing should absolutely not be allowed. They should, if a child, and I think it goes for children or adults that are incompetent, or not capable of making good sound decisions, that have somebody else making decisions for them. I think it should be considered the same level as medical neglect and should not be allowed. But should people be allowed to be Jehovah's Witnesses? Yes. In most cases, they're not hurting anything, with the exception of disfellowshipping, the blood transfusions, the high control, how they handle child sexual assault. The 2-witness rule, there's been enough said about that. I don't really feel like I need to get into that. But besides these things that obviously have legal components to them already, there's already laws in place against some of this stuff. They should be allowed to do, they should be allowed to meet. They should be allowed to read their watchtower on Revelations. They should be able to do their talks. If they want to go to people's houses and get shot down house after house after house, let them do it. They're not hurting anything by doing those things. They're not hurting anything by doing those things. And you can't police the thoughts and the ideas that people have because you don't agree with them. You're saying that people you're not, humans can't be human when you're doing that, when you say that. Yeah, so I think that only adults should be allowed to get baptized, and only adults should be allowed to get disfellowshipped. Only adults should be allowed to decide if they want a blood transfusion, and that's already the case. You can choose to not have medical treatment if you want. In most locations, but for children, no, it should be considered medical neglect. And I'm going to talk about the positives of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. I would say, and I have to say that most Jehovah's Witnesses are really nice people. I mean, they really are. Most of them are really nice. Most of them, I would say, are honest, besides being really, I mean, they're not like going to come into your house and steal your shit, is what I mean. They're like decent human beings for the most part. They try to be moral, so for the most part, they don't do like drugs, they don't drink in some of them do drink in excess. They try to be moral people, which is more than what I can say for a lot of people. They try to be honest unless it's about the religion. Let's see, what else? So they do teach, like a certain moral framework that you don't always see anymore in the world. I mean, that's just the truth. I would say that it's a positive to know the Bible. Having known people that are of other religions that really claim to be religious don't know the Bible. If you grow up a Jehovah's Witness, you read the Bible, so you know it. Now, whether or not you believe in that, because I don't believe in it, but I know what it says, and I know where all the books are in the Bible, and I can quote quite a few scriptures still, even though I have not been to a meeting in 20-something years. So knowing what the Bible says, I think, is a positive, because it's such a big part of the culture, and I do think that helps you in some ways. What are some other positives? I would say that a big one that a lot of ex-witnesses don't talk about is your ability to sit and appear to be paying attention for a long time. Because you have to, the meetings are so long, and so I think, like when you're a kid and you're gonna get your ass beat if you don't sit and be quiet, that you learn to look like you're paying attention and look like you're really interested. So I think that sitting during those hours of meetings gives you an ability to come up with some really creative ideas, because you have to be real quiet. You can't talk for hours, so you just have to sit still. And if you're really bored out of your mind, you can come up with some really good idea. Like I would sit, for the meetings, because I was an artist and would paint stuff, and I would sit and I would like look at the wood grain and like see faces and stuff, and I would come up with ideas for my paintings during the meetings because I was so bored. So maybe it helps, like if you're going to meditate later on in life, maybe it helps in that case. So patience, I think from an early age you develop patience. Out of necessity. So, and I would say that you develop some pretty good study habits. I can see maybe how some witnesses may do better in school because you have to sit and listen and they want you to take notes, so you take notes, you learn how to write notes really fast. There's a lot of reading and commenting and underlining, and I know that people say, well, all the churches do that, but not to the same extent. We're talking 3 meetings a week. We're talking studying in between those time periods. So, yeah. What else? That's all I can really think of right now. You probably, because there's such a community, like any cult, you get to understand people and what makes people tick, and psychology. You probably have some deeper psychological insights into people and why they behave and do things the way that they do. Just because you're exposed a lot to large groups of people, that maybe, if I had grown up and I wasn't a witness, I wouldn't have met so many people. Witnesses are also pretty diverse. So compared to other religions that kind of stick with their certain ethnicities and races, witnesses are quite diverse. So you get a lot of that from early on, which is good. So yeah, that's my life story, and yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed.